The House That Grew Teeth. Chapter 1. The House on Black Hollow Hill. A long-abandoned house sits atop Black Hollow Hill, its wooden frame twisted as if it had been growing rather than built. Its gnarled beams and warped walls seem to shift slightly when no one is looking, as though breathing. Locals speak of strange noises at night, whispers that slither through the wind, distant creaks as if something inside is stretching awake. Some claim to have seen its windows blink, its doors shift like a yawning mouth. Nobody dares go near it until the Carter family moves in, unaware of what lies within its walls. As the moving trucks pull up the winding path, the air feels thick, charged with something unseen. The trees surrounding the hills seem to lean inward, their branches reaching as if eager to welcome the new residents. The house, silent and waiting, looms over them. The Carters, James, his wife Emily, and their two children, Noah and Lily, step out onto the overgrown lawn. James, ever the skeptic, dismisses the unsettling aura, attributing it to the house's long neglect. Emily, however, shivers, feeling an unshakable sense of being watched. Inside, the air is stale, heavy with the scent of damp wood and something faintly metallic. The walls bear deep grooves, as though something had scraped against them over the years. The floorboards groan under their weight, not just from age, but as if reacting to their presence. In the dim afternoon light, Noah notices something strange, a knot in the wooden banister that looks unnervingly like an eye staring back at him. That night, as the family settles in, the house exhales. The wind outside howls, though the trees remain eerily still. From the darkness of the hallways, unseen mouths whisper names that have not been spoken in years, and in the silence of their new home, something stirs, its hunger awakening once more. Chapter 2. The Creaking Walls. The first few nights in the house were unsettling. At first it was small things, the occasional creak of the wooden beams shifting in the night, the way the wind seemed to howl louder around the house than anywhere else on the hill. The Carter family brushed it off, assuming it was the natural sounds of an old home settling. But as the days passed, the noises grew stranger, more unnatural. The walls no longer creaked as wood does, they groaned, stretching and sighing as though something within them was shifting, adjusting, breathing. Emily, the youngest child, was the first to notice that the sounds were more than just creaks. She woke in the middle of the night to the sensation of something soft and warm beneath her feet as she climbed out of bed. The wooden floor wasn't hard anymore. It had a slight give, like stepping onto flesh. She whimpered and ran back to bed, burying herself under the blankets, convinced it was just her imagination. But it wasn't. By the end of the week, the whispers started. At first, they were barely there, just faint murmurs she could hear when she pressed her ear against the walls. A rustling sound, like dry leaves brushing together, but deeper, almost like the hushed breathing of something vast. Then the voices came. They were indistinct at first, like hearing someone speak underwater, but soon they formed words, and worse, they called her name. Emily, come closer. The first time she heard it, she screamed. Her parents rushed in, flipping on the light. They found her curled in the corner, trembling, staring at the walls. It's talking to me, the house is talking to me. Her mother exchanged a worried glance with her father. "Honey, you were dreaming. This is a new house, and sometimes old houses make noise. That's all." Emily shook her head violently. "No, it knows my name. It told me to come closer." Her father sighed, kneeling beside her. "You're just not used to this place yet, sweetheart. I promise there's nothing in the walls." But as he said it, something inside the wood shifted. A deep, hollow groan, as though the house itself had heard his words and was laughing at them. Emily wasn't the only one who heard it. The next morning, her older brother Michael complained that his closet door had opened on its own in the night. Their mother dismissed it as a loose latch, but when she went to check, she found deep scratches on the inside of the door, scratches that hadn't been there the day before. As she ran her fingers over them, she could swear she felt warmth seeping from the wood, like something on the other side was breathing against it. She yanked her hand back and slammed the door shut, refusing to acknowledge the unease creeping up her spine. By the second week, the entire family began experiencing strange occurrences. The walls no longer simply creaked, they pulsed like a heartbeat. The wooden banister of the staircase felt oddly smooth in some places, almost slick, as if the grain had softened overnight. The old wooden doors would stick, then suddenly release, swinging open as if pushed from the other side. Worst of all was the smell. A faint, sickly sweet odor, like rotting wood mixed with something else, something organic. Emily refused to sleep alone. Every night she would crawl into her parents' bed, shaking. "It's getting louder," she whispered. "It's calling all of us now." One night, Michael decided to prove his sister wrong. Armed with a flashlight, he pressed his ear to the wall, listening. He grinned, ready to mock Emily for her fears, until he heard it. A voice, not a whisper this time, but a deep, guttural murmur, speaking a language he didn't understand. His breath caught in his throat as he felt the wall shift beneath his fingers, the wood rippling like muscle beneath skin. He ran, slamming the door behind him, his bravado gone. Their parents could no longer deny it. Something was wrong with the house. The family tried to ignore it, to go about their lives as though nothing had changed, but the house wouldn't let them. It groaned in protest when they moved furniture, the walls seeming to stretch and contract. Doors locked on their own, trapping them inside rooms until, minutes later, they would suddenly release. The air inside felt heavy, thick, as though the house was holding its breath, waiting. And then, one night, Emily woke to a terrible realization. The whispers weren't just coming from the walls anymore. They were coming from the floor beneath her bed. Chapter 3. Teeth in the Wood. One morning, as Mr. Carter descends the stairs, he notices something bizarre. Small, jagged protrusions growing along the staircase railing. At first, they look like splinters, tiny fragments of wood jutting out at odd angles. He reaches out to brush them away, expecting them to crumble like old rotting timber. Instead, they are hard, unyielding. His fingers trace their shape, and a chill crawls up his spine. They are not splinters. They are teeth, smooth enamel yellowed at the edges, embedded deep within the wood. His breath catches in his throat. He steps back, scanning the house. The dim morning light reveals more of them, peeking from the door frames, dotting the edges of the dining table. He swallows hard, rubbing his eyes as if the sight might vanish, but it doesn't. More appear, overnight, emerging from the wooden walls and floorboards, as though the house itself is alive. Emily is the first to notice the changes in her room. "Daddy, my bed is growing teeth," she says one morning, her voice tinged with unease. Mr. Carter forces a smile, but when he checks, he finds tiny, pearl-like protrusions at the headboard. The wooden slats on the floor have begun to warp, shifting unnaturally as if something beneath them is stirring. Mrs. Carter tries to rationalize it. "Maybe it's a termite infestation," she suggests, though she looks uncertain. "Wood can grow strange formations over time, can't it? Like knots or fungi." But Mr. Carter knows better. Wood doesn't grow teeth. By the end of the week, the house seems to pulse with an unsettling presence. The walls shift when no one is looking, the doors swell as if breathing, and the teeth, those terrible, unnatural teeth, continue to multiply. Soon, they are no longer just along the staircase or the bed frame. They sprout from the wooden beams of the ceiling, from the kitchen cabinets, from the very foundation beneath their feet. One night, as Mr. Carter runs his hand absent-mindedly along the banister, one of the teeth cuts him. The wound is deep, more than it should be for such a small point. Blood drips onto the stairs, and for a split second, he swears he hears the house sigh. Something is very, very wrong. Chapter 4. The Mouth in the Cellar. Driven by unease, Mr. Carter investigates the basement, his footsteps echoing in the damp, suffocating air. The dim light from his flashlight flickers as he steps cautiously over broken floorboards and discarded furniture. The cellar smells of mildew and something else, something foul and organic. The sensation of being watched prickles at his skin. As he moves further into the darkness, his foot catches on something uneven. Peeling back a rotting rug, he discovers a hatch, its metal hinges rusted and crusted with age. His breath quickens as he kneels to pry it open. With a groan, the hatch swings back, revealing a narrow tunnel leading deeper underground. A cold draft rushes up to greet him, carrying the scent of decay. Hesitating for only a moment, Mr. Carter lowers his flashlight into the opening. The beam cuts through the shadows, illuminating rough, pulsing walls lined with something unnatural. At first, he thinks they are stalactites or roots, but as his eyes adjust, a wave of revulsion crashes over him. They are not roots. Teeth. Hundreds of them, embedded in the walls, jutting out at odd angles. Some are yellowed and broken, others fresh and glistening, as if they had only just grown. The deeper he looks, the more they seem to shift, as though sensing his presence. Then he sees it. A gaping mouth, monstrous and yawning, stretching across the far wall of the tunnel. The lips are cracked and dry, but the teeth within gleam hungrily. The sight of it turns his stomach, a primal terror clawing at his mind. As he watches in horror, the mouth twitches. Then it speaks. "You live inside me now." The words are not heard, they are felt, vibrating through the wooden beams of the house, pressing against his skull. Mr. Carter stumbles back, his breath ragged. The walls seem to tighten around him, the teeth shifting slightly, like a predator licking its lips. He turns and runs, his flashlight swinging wildly as he scrambles up the stairs. Behind him, the mouth exhales a long, shuddering breath that carries through the entire house. The walls creak in response. Chapter 5. The House Hungers. The unease inside the Carter home thickened into full-blown terror. The nights were no longer peaceful. They were filled with screams. Emily would wake in the dead of night, her tiny body convulsing with fear as she clutched at her arms, claiming that something was trying to pull her into the floor. Dark bruises shaped like fingers began appearing on her skin, though no one had touched her. It wasn't just Emily. Mrs. Carter found herself waking up paralyzed, unable to move, her breath coming in ragged gasps as an invisible weight pressed down on her chest. Shadows shifted in the corners of her vision, slithering away the moment she turned to look. Mr. Carter, desperate to understand what was happening, set up cameras around the house. But every morning, the footage was distorted, filled with static and glimpses of something moving just out of frame. Then the house itself began to change. The furniture no longer stayed in place. Chairs would be found stacked in unnatural configurations. Beds pushed against doors as if trying to barricade something out or in. The walls flexed, the wooden beams groaning as if in discomfort, and every surface, from the floorboards to the ceiling, became riddled with jagged, pearly white teeth. Some were tiny like a child's first molars. Others were long and yellowed, rooted deep within the house's structure. One morning, Mr. Carter reached for the doorknob to leave for work, only to find his fingers sinking into a fleshy, wet maw that had formed around the handle. He recoiled in horror, watching as the door trembled, then sealed itself shut with a sickening squelch. They tried to leave. They fought with the locks, smashed at windows that would not break, screamed for help that no one outside seemed to hear. The house was no longer a home. It was a living thing, breathing, shifting, tightening its grip around them. And it was hungry. Chapter 6. Whispers from the Floorboards. The house had been strange before, but now it was undeniably alive. It did not simply groan with the wind or creak beneath their footsteps. It spoke. At first, it was only faint murmurs, distant and unintelligible, seeping up from beneath the floorboards like a muffled conversation happening just out of reach. But then the whispers became clearer, calling to them by name. Emily, John, Claire. The voices slithered through the wooden beams, deep and resonant, thick with something ancient. They did not echo like normal sounds. Instead, they seemed to seep into the air itself, as if the house breathed them out. The family would wake in the middle of the night, each one drenched in sweat, convinced someone had been whispering directly into their ears. Emily was the first to hear words beyond just their names. "Let me in," the voice cooed from the walls of her bedroom. "I can keep you safe." She refused to answer, hiding beneath her covers, clutching her stuffed rabbit so tightly its seams began to split. The voice only chuckled in response, the sound like dry leaves rustling in the attic. John heard it next when he went to retrieve tools from the basement. As he stepped onto the bottom stair, the whisper was no longer soft but guttural, a voice that seemed to vibrate through the very wood beneath his feet. "You cannot leave," it told him. "The house has chosen you. He spun around, his breath catching in his throat. The basement was dark, impossibly so, swallowing the weak glow of his flashlight. He backed up the stairs in a panic, his heartbeat thundering in his ears. The door slammed shut behind him as soon as he escaped, as if the house had allowed him to leave. This time, Claire, skeptical and practical, had brushed off the voices at first. Creaking pipes, she told herself, wood settling. But then, one night as she sat alone in the living room, she felt something brush against her ankle. A rush of cold air, a whisper against her skin. "We have waited so long." The voice sighed. "Just let go." Her breath hitched, her pulse roaring in her ears. She grabbed a flashlight and shined it toward the floor. The wooden planks beneath the rug were shifting, bulging upward as if something beneath was pressing against them, straining to break free. She ran upstairs to find her husband, her daughter, anyone who could confirm she wasn't losing her mind. But when she reached the hallway, she found Emily standing in front of her bedroom wall, fingers tracing the jagged ridges of newly grown teeth sprouting from the wooden panels. Emily turned to her mother, her voice small and afraid. "Mommy," she whispered, "the house is hungry." And then the whispering started again, louder this time, coming from all around them. Chapter 7: The Forgotten History. Desperate for answers, Mrs. Carter searches the town archives. She discovers that the house was built over an ancient burial site, one rumored to belong to an unknown, cursed entity. The original builders mysteriously vanished, their bodies never found. Every attempt to demolish the house ended in tragedy. The town's records are fragmented, as if someone or something had deliberately erased portions of history. But as Mrs. Carter digs deeper, she uncovers old newspaper clippings dating back over a century. They speak of a family, the Whitmores, who were the first known occupants of the house. According to faded articles, the Whitmores moved into the house in the early 1900s, only for all 4 family members to disappear within months. The authorities at the time searched the premises but found no evidence of struggle, only strange indentations in the wooden floors, as if something had been pressing down upon them from above. Even more disturbing is a journal she finds among the archived records, written by an unknown man who once investigated the house. The journal speaks of dreams filled with whispers, of doors that vanished overnight, and of the sensation of being watched from within the very walls. One passage stands out to Mrs. Carter. "The wood is not wood. The house is not a house. It breathes when you are not looking. It listens even when you whisper, and it feeds when you think you are alone." She delves into land ownership records, tracing back further than the Whitmores. The land had once been used by an ancient indigenous tribe, but little is known about them. Legends speak of a sacred ground, a place where something was buried that was never meant to be disturbed. When settlers arrived, they built over it, and from that moment, the land changed. Reports of disappearances and strange sightings date back as far as recorded history allows. Mrs. Carter also uncovers attempts to destroy the house. In 1946, a fire was set to the building, but the flames refused to take. Witnesses claimed the fire burned in the air around the house but never touched the wood. In the 1970s, a construction company attempted to tear it down, but their machinery failed inexplicably, as if the house itself willed them away. One of the workers went missing during the process. His body never recovered. The company abandoned the project, warning others never to try again. As Mrs. Carter pieces these horrors together, she realizes that they are not the first to be trapped inside the house, and if they do not act quickly, they will not be the last. Chapter 8: The Changing Flesh. At first, the changes are easy to dismiss, small things that could be explained away. Emily complains of aching gums, and when Mrs. Carter checks, she finds the child's baby teeth loose. That should be normal. But by the next morning, the new teeth have already pushed through, too sharp, too jagged, growing at an unnatural rate. The edges glisten in the dim light, looking more like fangs than human teeth. Emily refuses to smile, pressing her lips together tightly, as if she can feel that something is wrong. Mr. Carter wakes up with deep scratches along his arms, as if he had clawed himself in his sleep. His fingernails, which he absent-mindedly bites when anxious, are tougher now, nearly unbreakable. When he clips them, they splinter like shards of bone, not keratin. The next morning, his fingertips ache, and when he looks, he realizes the skin around his nails has receded, exposing raw, calloused ridges. His hands, once ordinary, now look almost predatory. Mrs. Carter notices something different about her reflection. At first, she thinks it's just exhaustion. Her eyes look sunken, her cheekbones more pronounced. But when she touches her face, the skin feels wrong. It doesn't move quite like it used to, as though something beneath is shifting, stretching. One night, she swears she sees her reflection smile, even though her lips have not moved. The sight sends her stumbling back from the mirror, her breath coming in shallow gasps. At dinner, their food tastes off, no matter what they eat. Meats seem too bland, vegetables bitter. The only thing that satisfies the gnawing hunger in their stomachs is something with a deep metallic tang, like blood. When Mr. Carter bites his tongue on accident, a strange hunger flashes in his mind, a longing that terrifies him. Emily, too, seems different at the dinner table. She no longer fidgets or plays with her food. She simply watches, unblinking, as if waiting for something. Then come the dreams. Dreams of gnashing teeth, of wooden mouths swallowing them whole. They wake up drenched in sweat, their bodies aching, their nails digging into their own skin in their sleep. The walls whisper to them at night, soothing, coaxing. "Let go," they say. "You are almost ready." They try not to talk about it. They try to pretend nothing is wrong. But the house knows. The house is watching. And the house is changing them. Chapter 9: The First Sacrifice. As night fell upon the Carter household, the whispers became more than just background noise. They formed coherent words, sinister in their intent. The house had been patient, feeding off their fear, their presence, their very essence. But now it was time to feast in full. The walls trembled, the floorboards groaned, and the voice of the house spoke clearly for the first time. "One must stay, the rest may go. Choose." Silence followed. The family of four stood frozen in the dim glow of flickering candlelight, their faces pale with horror. Mr. Carter clenched his fists, his mind racing. Mrs. Carter pulled Emily close, shielding her with her arms. James, their teenage son, shook his head violently. "No, no way, we're all getting out of here," James yelled, his voice cracking. "The house is lying," Mr. Carter snapped. "It's trying to break us." But the walls disagreed. A low, guttural growl vibrated through the floor, rattling the bones within their bodies. The wooden planks beneath their feet pulsed like the veins of a living thing. The house was not lying. It was hungry. Emily whimpered, her small fingers clutching at her mother's dress. "I don't want to be eaten," she whispered. The innocence in her voice shattered Mrs. Carter's heart. Then came the first true horror of the night. The house began to choose for them. James let out a strangled scream as the floor beneath him softened like melting wax. His legs sank in up to his knees before he could react. Mr. Carter lunged forward, grabbing his son by the arms and pulling with all his strength. The floor refused to let go. Teeth, rows upon rows of them, emerged from the wooden surface, encircling James's trapped legs. He howled in agony as the sharp, yellowed fangs bit into his flesh. "Help me!" James screamed, his voice raw with terror. Mrs. Carter grabbed onto her son's torso, tears streaming down her face. Emily, too young to understand fully but old enough to sense doom, sobbed uncontrollably. "It's taking him! We have to do something!" Mrs. Carter shrieked. Mr. Carter knew. The house was forcing their hand. It had made the decision for them. He made the hardest decision of his life in that moment. "Forgive me," he whispered, barely audible over the sounds of splintering wood and gurgling hunger. Then he let go. James's eyes widened in betrayal, in sheer disbelief, but there was no time for words. The house pulled him down in an instant, the teeth snapping shut like the maw of a beast. His screams cut off as the floor solidified once more, leaving behind nothing but silence. The air went still. The house had been fed. Then the front door unlocked. Mrs. Carter collapsed, her wails echoing through the cursed halls. Emily clung to her, sobbing, but Mr. Carter didn't stop to grieve. He grabbed them both by the arms and dragged them toward the exit. The door creaked open, revealing the night outside, dark and cold, but free. They ran, stumbling down the front steps and into the overgrown yard. As they reached the edge of the property, Emily turned back. The house had changed. Its wooden frame shifted, reshaping itself. The windows blinked, the walls rippled, and then, from somewhere deep within, James' voice emerged. "It's better this way," it said, eerily calm. "I'm part of it now." The front door slammed shut. The house had made its choice, and so had they. Chapter 10. The floorboards split. As they refuse to make the sacrifice, the house retaliates. The floors tremble beneath their feet, a deep rumbling growing from within the walls. Without warning, the wood splits apart, revealing rows of jagged, yellowed teeth embedded in the very foundation of the house. The sharp fangs snap hungrily, clicking together in anticipation. The Carters stumble back in horror as the floor itself writhes, shifting as if the entire house is alive. The walls pulse and expand, their wooden surfaces stretching like skin over unseen muscles. A sickly warmth radiates from them, and with each exhale, the house releases a wet, rattling breath. It is no longer a home. It is a living, breathing predator. And it has run out of patience. Emily screams as the floor beneath her collapses. Mr. Carter lunges forward, catching her by the arm just as rows of gnashing teeth snap shut inches below her dangling feet. Splinters of wood curl and twist into needle-like points, attempting to impale anyone who lingers too long. The house is starving, and it will not be denied its meal. Doors slam shut with thunderous force, trapping them within the monstrous structure. The windows darken, their glass warping into something opaque and flesh-like. There is no escape. The whispers return, no longer coaxing but snarling, their voices guttural and filled with hunger. Mrs. Carter grabs a fireplace poker, slamming it against the walls. "Let us go," she screams, but her voice is swallowed by the house's low, reverberating growl. The wooden floor beneath them ripples, forcing them to their knees. It is a living entity, shifting and reshaping itself with every second, corralling them toward the gaping chasm in the center of the room. Mr. Carter looks around wildly. There has to be a way out. There has to be a way to fight. But the house is relentless, its hunger insatiable. The only question that remains, will they find a way to escape? Or will they become just another part of the house's growing, ever-hungry body? Chapter 11. Escape Attempts. The Carters are no longer trying to reason with the house. They are fighting for their lives. Desperation fuels their actions as they swing chairs against the windows, claw at the walls, and throw their weight against the doors. But the house does not break. The glass warps beneath their blows but does not shatter. The wooden walls seem to bend like flesh, absorbing their attacks before regenerating. Every time they make progress, the house undoes it within seconds. They try the front door again, but it now leads into the basement. The basement door opens to the attic. The house is shifting around them, its architecture no longer obeying the rules of reality. They dash through hallways that stretch endlessly, only to find themselves back where they started. Rooms that should not exist appear before them, filled with grotesque furniture made of bone and pulsing tissue. The whispers that once slithered through the walls have turned into agonized screams. Mocking laughter echoes around them, taunting their every attempt. The house is enjoying their suffering. Emily clings to her mother, sobbing. "We have to get out," she pleads, but there is nowhere left to go. Then the walls begin to close in, pressing tighter with every passing second. The house is done playing. It is ready to consume them whole. Chapter 12. The house remembers. The truth unravels before the Carters in a horrifying revelation. The house is not merely a cursed structure. It is alive, sentient, and ancient. It holds memories, not just of those who have lived within its walls, but of every soul it has ever consumed. The whispers grow clearer, forming into anguished cries and pleas for help. Faces begin to emerge from the walls. Horrific, twisted visages of those who came before, their mouths frozen in silent screams, their eyes filled with desperate warnings. The visions strike the Carters with paralyzing fear. They see the first family that lived in the house, a husband and wife who vanished without a trace, their bones now fused with the wooden beams. They witness a group of explorers, foolishly curious, dragged into the cellar where the living mouth waits. Every soul that has entered the house without sacrifice has been swallowed, their consciousness trapped within its walls, forced to exist in torment for eternity. Emily clutches at her mother, tears streaming down her face. "They're still here," she whispers. "The house won't let them go." Mr. Carter steps back as the floorboards ripple beneath him, pulsing like muscle. A cold realization washes over him. This is not just a home for lost souls. It is a growing entity, feeding off the fear and flesh of those who reside within it. And it remembers every moment, every victim, every scream. As the walls shift and the whispers morph into agonized shrieks, the family knows the truth. The house is not satisfied yet, and if they do not find a way out, they too will become another chapter in its memory, another set of faces in the wood, forever warning the next unfortunate souls who dare to enter. Chapter 13. The Final Bargain. With no other choice, they offer the house what it wants, but the house does not simply take, it transforms. The walls pulse with anticipation, the whispers coalescing into a single deep voice that utters a demand too terrible to comprehend. The Carters hesitate, each looking to the others, searching for an answer where none exists. The house grows impatient. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of decay. The teeth in the walls chatter hungrily and the floor shifts like muscle beneath their feet. A decision must be made, or the house will choose for them. Trembling, Mr. Carter steps forward, his voice barely a whisper. "Take me?" But the house rejects his offer, laughing in a chorus of ghostly voices. It wants something fresher, younger. Emily screams as unseen hands drag her toward the pulsating walls. Her mother clings to her, begging, bargaining, but the house has no mercy. The family watches in horror as Emily's small body is pulled into the wood, her limbs twisting, fusing with the structure. Her cries fade, replaced by a slow, rhythmic heartbeat within the walls. A new whisper joins the others, soft and sorrowful, calling out for her family. The house sighs in satisfaction, and the doors finally unlock. The surviving Carters stumble outside, gasping for breath, the cool night air feeling alien against their skin. But as they turn back, they see it. The house has changed. Its outline is sharper, its walls taller, and among the countless teeth and shifting wood, a single eye opens, watching them leave. The house has fed, and it is still hungry. Chapter 14. Leaving the house behind. The remaining Carters stumble out into the morning light, forever changed. The town watches in horror as they emerge, their skin pale, their teeth slightly too sharp. Their eyes, once filled with warmth and familiarity, now carry a strange, unsettling glint, as if they have seen something beyond human comprehension. They do not speak of what happened inside, perhaps because they no longer have the words, or perhaps because the house still lingers within them. The house stands silent behind them, its once twisted frame appearing almost normal in the daylight. But the town knows better. They have seen others leave before, and they know the Carters are not truly free. The whispers may have faded, but they are never truly gone. The house has marked them, it has fed on them, and it is patient. Days pass, and the Carters attempt to resume their lives, but nothing is the same. The taste of normal food feels wrong. Their reflection in mirrors seems unfamiliar, subtly shifting when they aren't looking. Nightmares plague them, dreams of dark corridors and endless rows of gnashing teeth. Emily wakes in the middle of the night, whispering in a voice not entirely her own. The house may have let them leave, but it has not let them go. And somewhere deep within the walls of Black Hollow Hill, the house waits. Its hunger never fades. It watches, listens, and bides its time, knowing that one day the Carters or someone else will return, and when they do, it will be ready. Chapter 15. The House Grows. Years pass, and the Carter family becomes nothing more than a hushed warning among the townsfolk. No one speaks of the house aloud, but its legend lingers like an unshakable curse. Some say the Carters never truly escaped, that pieces of them remain within its walls, their voices among the whispers that call in the night. Others insist that the house simply let them go, knowing they would spread its tail, ensuring its hunger would never go unfed. The house, once merely a grotesque anomaly, now looms over Black Hollow Hill like a monstrous relic. Its frame has stretched taller, its wooden beams appearing thicker, more sinewy, as if they have been growing rather than decaying. The windows are darker, bottomless voids that seem to drink in the light around them. Where there were once only small protrusions of teeth hidden in the floorboards, now jagged fangs line the doorways, waiting like a trap to snap shut. And then, one day, a new family arrives. They are strangers to the town, unaware of the hushed warnings, oblivious to the shuddering glances from the townspeople as they drive past. The father marvels at the house's grandeur, the mother admires its rustic charm, and their children race toward the front porch, unaware that the wood beneath their feet flexes ever so slightly, as if stirring in anticipation. The sun begins to set as they step inside. For a while, there is silence. The wind picks up through the trees, rustling dry leaves across the abandoned road. The town remains eerily still, as if holding its breath, waiting. Then, as twilight deepens, the first whisper drifts from the house, curling through the night air like a sigh of satisfaction. It is awake again, and it is still hungry.